So good time to talk about that process then. So once the defect's been identified, we go and tell, say, the body corporate manager or the committee, and then how does it pan out after that?
All right, so I've made a few notes because there is a bit of a process. Good. So, I mean, instantly we need to identify the age of the building. And that will determine whether or not we're able to have any legal action against anybody, or if we've got some claim on any person that was involved in the build of the building. So, generally we all know that 10-year time frame. So once you get past the 10 years, you're pretty useless at having anyone to claim on, because you've gone past that long stop sort of 10-year time frame.
And that 10-year time frame, is this to do with the council liability, or what is that 10-year time frame about? Do you know?
Well, it's in the Companies Act. Right. So it's a 10-year time frame in the Companies Act. Right. And so that's what we work to, and generally a lot of the thing that will change that is if there are building warranties that overarch over that time frame. So one I've got at the present time, it has a 15-year weather tightness warranty, so over and above the 10 years. So we've still got a claim on the developer and the construction company because we've got that 15 years.
From a new business point of view, you kind of think these developers are on the hook for so long. Like why? It's a surprise that they sort of like keep doing what they do. Like they're on the hook for a long time these days.
Yeah, well, they've always been on the hook for 10 years. So my understanding is it kicks off from CCC when the date of the 10-year period is. And Wendy's correct that back in the early days, if you've got remediation site, when I started with a portfolio of 30 body corporates and 6 of them were leaky, and so there was a sharp learning curve. But with new builds, mostly the defect process is a lot of minor stuff. The major stuff, if it is going to turn up, is going to turn up later on. So it's weather tightness issues and that sort of stuff. Most of the defecting at the start is completely different to what Wendy's talking about, and that is it's just the finish of the building and that sort of stuff in the common areas, in which you would well be aware of with the building management side of the company.
Yep. Back to your process. Keep going.
Well, actually, I was just going to add to what Roger said there. Part of what building managers and body corporate managers, but particularly building managers at the start, they need to look at the manuals for the buildings and what the maintenance processes are that are outlined from the developer, and we need to stick to them. And we also need to be very cognizant of the LTMPs, what's in the LTMPs, and constantly monitoring them. Because one of the things that could jeopardise any claim that you may have, even if it's under 10 years, is if you've not maintained the building to the standards that you have to maintain it to, because otherwise, if you just haven't done what they've said, they'll come back and say, well, it's a maintenance issue, you haven't maintained it.
Yeah, and those operating manuals can be quite intimidating. They're quite thick in these big bound folders and things, and I know that a lot of people will just put them in the corner and they'll gather dust and they're there if they're needed, but they're super important to be familiar with, because like you say, it runs through, like say, the care of a particular element in the building, and you've got to wash it this often, you've got to repaint it this often or whatever, and if you don't do that, like you say, when it comes to a defect, you could be on the hook for that. So